Let us take a look at the technical aspects of Rahu in Vedic astrology. Number 1. Rahu does not own any zodiac sign or house. However, he has lordship over 3 nakshatras, which is Ardra, Swati and Satabhisha. If you are born in one of these nakshatras, your Rahu Mahadasha starts at birth. Number 2. Rahu is exalted, or most powerful, in Gemini. But some authorities believe the point of exaltation is actually Taurus and not Gemini. The point of debilitation for any graha is the opposite house of exaltation. Hence, Rahu is debilitated in Sagittarius, or Scorpio, depending on which scripture you refer to. However, Rahu is believed to be very powerful if he occupies the 3rd, 6th, or 11th houses in your birth chart. These are called Upachaya houses. Number 3. Rahu's natural friends are Saturn, Venus, and Mercury. Therefore, Rahu is comfortable in the signs which belong to these friendly planets. Saturn rules over Capricorn and Aquarius. Venus rules over Taurus and Libra. Mercury is the ruler of Gemini and Virgo. Number 4. Rahu's natural enemies are Sun, Moon, and Mars. Sun rules over Leo while Moon rules over Cancer. Mars rules over Aries and Scorpio. Number 5. Depending on which text you are referring to, Rahu is thought to have the 5th and 9th aspect. However, some authorities dispute this and believe that Rahu behaves like Saturn, which aspects the 3rd, 7th, and 10th houses from its position in your chart. Kethu, however, only affects the house he sits in. Kethu has no aspect. And now, let us take a look at how Rahu might influence each house in your birth chart. As discussed in part 1, Rahu denotes desires, and the sign he occupies in our birth chart gives a rough idea as to where will we place much of our desires in our lives. This always comes with a peril. One has to look at the position of Kethu, which is always placed 180 degrees, or opposite of Rahu. Kethu, in that sense, signifies the aspects of our lives which will face neglect. For example, if Rahu occupies the 10th house of karma, one will become a workaholic, and will neglect affairs of managing one's own home and comforts, which is denoted by the 4th house. This individual will keep thinking about work even while sitting at home. One becomes oblivious to the mundane affairs at home. If Rahu occupies the 1st house or associated with the Lord of the Ascendant, the individual places much importance on self and self-image. It makes the person overly ambitious, often neglecting the partner or partners. Often the marriage is delayed or there will be multiple marriages, with the partner often forced to make huge sacrifices to keep the marriage going. Also, in a relationship, the individual will try to outshine the partner or the partner often has to take the back seat in terms of how they project themselves to the society. If Rahu occupies the 2nd house, one may have a dubious family lineage or mixed parentage. Or, the person may tell grandiose or misleading stories about his or her family. Depending on other strengths and conjunctions, one may accumulate an enormous amount of wealth or have erratic spending habits and can even strain the finances of the family. Speech will be sweet and diplomatic, allowing one to hide pure intentions. These persons can become good negotiators and are often able to converse in different languages. Rahu in the 3rd house is all about communication. The person excels in writing, publishing, making announcements to others. One does that by using new media and technology. One often gets along well with siblings. Rise in status based on own efforts are indicated. In the 4th house, there is a lot of connection with home. One does not want to leave home, even at the expense of career advancement. Though the mother is there to provide a nurturing environment, health of the mother may be affected overall. A good education is indicated, particularly connected to research, foreign diplomacy, and new technology. In the 5th house, he gives creativity, good relationship with children, and a dramatic but somewhat romantic personality. Depending on the position of the 5th house, and Rahu's connection with the Lord of the 5th, one may excel in speculative investments. Rahu in the 6th house is a natural-born fighter and wins over enemies. The 6th house is also linked to debt, diseases, and legal proceedings. Of course, a weak or afflicted Rahu in this house will give problems in all those areas which was just mentioned. We shall look at Rahu's effect on other houses in part 3. A note of clarification regarding Kethu. The position of Kethu signifies the area which we have excelled and settled our karma in our past lives. One often finds much frustration when dealing with houses occupied by Kethu. For example, if Kethu occupies the 10th, it pushes you away from being career-minded, and directs your energy towards the 4th house where Rahu sits in. And a final note on Rahu. Rahu's affliction towards a particular house improves over time. For example, Rahu in the 1st house does not make you neglect your partner lifelong. At some point, you will run into trouble due to your obsession with self. If you learn your karmic lessons and accept that you do have limitations, unlike what Rahu demands from you, you will be released from his clutches. This usually happens well in your 40s. This is when your soul begins to mature and becomes ready to move on to a higher existence.